Right, so I'm going to talk about archaic Homo sapiens a little bit and the anatomical characteristics of them. As far as timing, when I talked about Homo erectus, I said that the ending of Homo erectus is under some debate, which means, by definition, the appearance of archaic Homo sapiens and what makes archaic Homo sapiens is also under debate. So it could be as early as maybe like 800 or 500,000 years ago. It could be as recent as a couple 100,000 years ago. So what makes archaic Homo sapiens is that it has traits that are associated more with like Homo erectus, things like the big brow ridges, still lower forehead, these kinds of things. But it also has characteristics that are more what we see with modern Homo sapiens. So like brain size in the modern range, or in fact even outside the modern range. Decrease in tooth size, these kinds of things. There are archaic Homo sapiens found all throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa. But until the last 20 years ago or so, we didn't really have a lot of good examples of archaic Homo sapiens except for one variant. In the last 20 years or so, we've one part of the world in particular, we've really gotten increased knowledge of, and this is from a site in Spain called Atapuerca, and this is a caste associated with individuals found at this site. In recent years, we've started to see a real increase individuals found in Africa, especially the south part of Africa, and also in many different parts of East Europe or into Asia. And so what you'll see with this archaic Homo sapiens, still quite big brow ridges, but nothing like what we saw with Homo erectus. We see an increase in the presence of a forehead, but nothing near what you see with modern humans. So increase in brain size, and so when we go over here and think about the brain size versus the face size, we're going to see maybe a little bit of a decrease in how much face there is to how much like forehead there is. The kind of prognathism that is occurring, the jutting out of the face, is point number 5 here. It's called more mid-facial prognathism, so right around the teeth, and I'll come back to that in a moment. The most known, the most studied, the most kind of famous in regard to the kind of archaic Homo sapiens that people know about are Neanderthals. So they were found in the 1800s, in 1856, in a cave in Germany, and they are considered to be the quintessential archaic Homo sapiens, and they're the center of debate about modern humans and how we call them. And so for the remainder of the time, I'm going to talk about Neanderthals because we have many different examples. We have really quite complete casts as well. So what you'll see with the skull is that the skull is quite large, quite long, excuse me, it is quite large as well. And it's described as a low sloping skull. And so in comparison to an anatomically modern human, you'll see that it's quite long compared to modern humans. When we look at it from the back, you will see that there is a different shape. I usually describe the back of the skull of a Neanderthal as being a little bit like football shaped, where the back of a modern human is a little bit like a loaf of bread, sort of tall and kind of evenly wide all along the back part of the skull. Neanderthals are quite cold adapted, as are most of the archaic Homo sapiens in Europe and into Asia. How we see this in the skull is mostly going to be associated around the nose. The nose is really quite large and projects. There is the midfacial prognathism that I had talked about before, where the amount of prognathism in Neanderthals isn't dramatically larger up until you get toward the bottom part of the nose, and then it's almost like the face is pulled out. The number 4 point is, so the backbone of the bone of the skull that's in the extreme back is called the occipital bone, and in Neanderthals there is kind of a rounded projection that's called an occipital bone. In modern humans, our occipital bone is relatively flat. And this had consistently in the past been described as a trait that is unique to Neanderthals. Now, it's very consistent in Neanderthals, but there are other hominid species, including us, that do have occipital bones. But again, this is described and defined as a unique characteristic to Neanderthals. And one thing that I have not brought up yet, but as we get ready to talk about anatomically modern humans, I should bring up that all of our hominid ancestors, all of them, do not have a prominent chin, meaning that at the base of the chin, the chin is receding instead of more pronounced. And so even with Neanderthals, even with individuals from Atapuerca, and maybe even more pronounced, you can see on the mandible that the chin is receding at the chin. Whereas with modern humans, contrasting, you can see that there is a projecting chin. It's jutting out at the bottom. So one of the ways to tell, am I looking at anatomically modern humans, or am I looking, so anatomically modern Homo sapiens versus archaic Homo sapiens, is going to be the presence or absence of a chin. I'll talk about some of the other differences when we talk about modern humans.